want to welcome everybody here to Rochester's best kept secret neighborhood. The PLEX neighborhood is really going to be the most emerging and exciting neighborhood in the city of Rochester, and I think it's going to be the neighborhood that's going to really bring back the rest of the city. I think we're going to be able to be an experiment, to be a laboratory, to be a place where things can get replicated. What I'm showing here is this is a map of the area here, and it's more than just the PLEX area here. You have basically the city of the river here, Jesse River, and you have the PLEX area here. Over on this side over here is the east side. You have the University of Rochester. You would have Mount Hope Cemetery over there. So the east side is not the PLEX side. The PLEX side is on the west side. What you have here is basically, this is the visioning, this is the blue sky thinking of the residents, neighbors, and stakeholders of the PLEX neighborhood. We've had a process called the charrette, which is a long process involving just to educate ourselves about the history of our neighborhood, what are the wants and the needs, what are the desires, what are the wishes, what are the strong points, what are the things we wanted to be able to crowd out, and what were the things we wanted to bring in. So we had a chance to have the charrette process. We also work with the city of Rochester with the vacuum oil brownfield. Vacuum oil is the actual name of a company that was in this area here along the river, and it began in about 1866. So it was one of the first oil refineries in America, so just learning by the seat of their pants. And so when they're beginning, oil drums with the raw petroleum was like a large barrel 50 feet tall. You can imagine over time there was leakage from the barrels into the ground there. I just saw a recent article that mentioned that there's 14 feet of soil on top of the bedrock there. Those 14 feet of soil have to be examined carefully because of the seepage of the petroleum problems there. So before we really can get better as a neighborhood, we've got to heal ourselves. And healing is a literal process from the standpoint that our soil, our roots are not well. We've got to make them better. So there's going to be a long process involves first a cleanup of the area. We have to study where the spills were, how widespread it is, and what are the contaminants that are involved. It may be that an area may be just too unhealthy to have a house with a basement there, but maybe you could put a parking lot there or something. So the first 0 to 7 years involves reclaiming this area by doing good science, but not just sitting in our hands during this time frame. In the area here, you see a lot of green space being developed here. This is currently a wild vegetated area along the river. It's where the vacuum oil refinery used to be. There used to be a very, very long series of buildings there. Those buildings are gone there. And when it was demolished in 1930, everything growing back there since then is basically an invasive forest. It's not the true old growth forest. But it is a natural habitat there. You have heron, you've got fox, you've got ducks, all kinds of wild animals back there, and we're proud of that. The neighborhood, you can walk by and take a hike and ride your bike and pass by a couple of deer along the way. So we want to keep the best of the waterfront area of our neighborhood. So when the neighborhood did the planning process, they wanted to make sure we preserve the habitat on the outside. So think for a second of a archery target. Think of this as being the outer ring of the archery target, and eventually we're going to be moving into the bullseye of the target here when I talk about the PLEX campus. So what you have here is the larger PLEX neighborhood. The area you see here is considered a brownfield. It starts at Brooks Landing, Brooks Avenue area. It goes along Plymouth Avenue, and it ends at 4th Street. So the entire roughly 45-acre area is a brownfield. It's not in healthy shape. It's got to get cleaned up and fixed up. So the first 0 to 7 years is to do cleanup. But then the PLEX neighborhood is saying, what good is it afterwards? What's it going to be good for? Do we want to recreate Cornhill Landing and have a large, massive complex that encroaches on the river that only rich people could afford? Do we want it to be the Brooks Landing area where it's used for purposes that don't really benefit our neighbors? The area that was where the Stavage Hotel is located formerly had been part of our parklands. We gave that up and it became Stavage. It's a plus to the neighbors. We can't look at it as being totally negative. We've got to look at it from the standpoint that it was a stepping stone, and we'll be talking about more of the stepping stones today. Now with this area here being cleaned up, we don't want to lose our neighbors here. We don't want to lose the people who've been living here, who've been basically hold this neighborhood together for the last 40, 50 years, and we need to keep them here. So when the PLEX neighbors sat down and planned, they planned to keep it a neighborhood here, but a neighborhood with possibilities. In our area here, we used to have more of a vibrant business district. We don't have that now. We just have little patches along the way there, nothing continuous. So we want to be able to have more economic development. So We want our houses to be improved. We want to have economic development to happen here. So we've been making our plans about that. Now, I've been talking about the idea of this as being like a bullseye, being on the outside. We're going to draw you now to the center of the bullseye. So you've had passed out to you a sheet. I'm going to draw yours, Dorothy, for a second. I got it. This sheet here, think of this as being, again, this is the outer ring of the bullseye. You can see the river there. The river is the outer part of the bullseye. And then you'll notice that there, along the river area, you'll see there's a bridge. It's the Erie Railroad Bridge there. That's what they call rail to trail. It used to be a railroad bridge. It was converted just 2 summers ago. Now it's a pedestrian bridge. A small problem we have is that it's not lighted at nighttime. So a goal we have is, let's get some illumination there. So that's a later topic. Again, the other parts of the river there, but where this bridge is, that's where there are students' dormitories there. So very close to our neighborhood is actually a large student population of the University of Rochester. Formerly, without having bridge connections there, they never had any contact with the neighborhood. Now we've got a chance to bring them into our neighborhood and make positive things happen. So the PLEX neighborhood is using this time frame when the cleanup and study is going to be taking to look at our own neighborhood in terms of what assets do we have now that we ourselves can trumpet and proclaim as being, we've got something special here, let's make more good things happen. And the best thing that's happened in this neighborhood here is where we are right now. The Gandhi Institute has been a foundation here, it's been an anchor here, it's bringing positive energy here we want to expand upon. So where we are right now, this is the bullseye, but better analogy would be, this is the heart. This area where we are right now is where our PLEX neighborhood is going to radiate outward in a very positive way, in a very healthy way, in a very helpful way. Now you'll notice that there's a brighter green area here. We call this the PLEX Campus. That's an acronym for Community and Multiversity Project for Urban Sustainability. And I emphasize the word multiversity. We have John Scholl here. John really embedded this word in me. We have the river that's here. The river's got some terrific bicycle trails there. The river trails not just go to the U of R, but also right up to RIT. Just before I came here, I was over at the Flint Community Design Center, and our neighborhood has been honored to be the showcase neighborhood for grassroots work. So just today, we set up a beautiful display at the gallery at the Rush Regional Community Design Center on East Main Street near Goodman Street there. And it portrays basically our river area. We arranged it cleverly to show our history. We received a wonderful honor just this past Monday. Our PLEX neighborhood is regarded by the Landmark Society of Rochester, New York, Western New York, as being an exemplary corridor of African American history. Dorothy had attended a meeting this summer, and Gloria also, with regards to showing to the larger Rochester community just how much local African American history we have here. If you start down the Brooks Avenue area there, Susan Anthony lived on Brooks Avenue first, before she lived over on Madison Street. While she was living in that area there, her neighbor was Rhoda DeGarmo. She was one of the people who voted legally with Susan. So Rhoda had an Underground Railroad location on Brooks Avenue, and is recorded at the Susan B. Anthony house that there was a visitor to Rhoda DeGarmo's home, and the visitor was Harriet Tubman, bringing freedom seekers to the home on Brooks Avenue, and the person who came over and brought some food was Susan B. Anthony. So in our neighborhood here, we've got this powerful African American history. We've also got Native American history in our neighborhood here. Where the U of R is, there was formerly a Algonquin Indian camp there. And again, as you walk along the river, going from Brooks Avenue to Susan B. Anthony time frame, you're going past the Native American time frame. As you're walking down the Plymouth Avenue area along the river, you come to an area that currently is the student housing, Riverview student housing. That area there formerly had been a canal area. From, as you look at the Sabridge Hotel, where the parking lot area is the Sabridge Hotel, then goes through where the Brooks Landing Business Complex is there. That was a former canal that was 115 miles long, starting in Rochester, going all the way down south to the Pennsylvania area. It was a reliable underground railroad route. We're trying to bring back that history. So that area along the river now is being celebrated as being a corridor of African American history. We're really proud of that. Now, getting to this map again here, you see that the river plays a big part here. You see that the bridge is there to lead people into our neighborhood. We've been working with Bergman and Associates to help plan with the City of Rochester to be able to make this a more accessible neighborhood. With the help of Bergman and Associates in our charrette process, we're trying to use the Flint Street area as you're going across the walking bridge to use Flint Street as being the area to get up here at the Plymouth Avenue place where we are right now. So this would be the heart or the bullseye, whichever you prefer. We call this area the PLEX Campus. Again, the Community and Multiversity Project for Urban Sustainability. Using this building here as our anchor, both spiritually, morally, and also just going outward. This building here is shown in your map here and being in the green rectangle. So next to the green rectangle is a red rectangle. And that would be directly behind us here. That red rectangle was a former garage. Think back 50 years ago, this was a major dairy bottling campus. Over there to the side was a large building where they did the bottling of milk and put the caps on the glass jars, etc. Then they took them over to the next door building. It was a massive garage right up the back here. At that garage, the little trucks would pull in, they'd load up the crates in the truck there, and they would then drive out in the neighborhood. Now that Plymouth Dairy is going to be long gone. It became a florist afterwards, but the building has been disused. But this building here, as an example, was disused as well, but it's been brought back and it's vital and it's alive. We want the red square building in the back there, the warehouse, to become an aquaponics center. Now, on the other side, it shows a model of what is called the Aquaculture and Aquaponics Program at the State School of Industry, the Office of Children and Family Services. I visited the campus there a couple years ago, and at that point, their greenhouse was in disuse. But since that time, they've got a wonderfully innovative program where they're developing aquaculture, which is fish growing, but then also aquaponics. So if you can visualize a large tank, so to speak, filled with fish, the nutrients from the fish water then goes through the aquaponics system to then grow their vegetables there. The bragging point of the article here was they grow their own food there. Not only are they growing the aquaponic lettuce and stuff like that, but also growing fish. And they make enough they can sell to stores in Buffalo and to restaurants in Buffalo. So visualize in the back there, an aquaponics center in that former warehouse there. Visualize a tank growing fish in there, maybe rainbow trout for the restaurants and sell in the neighborhood here, whatever. But also maybe even growing smallmouth bass to restock our river. Part of our process of healing is not just to heal our neighborhood, but to heal our river as well. So the aquaponics program gives us a chance to work with a very specialized trainer. It's basically, if you think of the stone was cast aside by the builder, we've cast aside the young people who've gone to industry. We call them juvenile delinquents. That's not the right name. They're trained aquaponics technicians. But when those guys come back to Rochester, we want them right here. We want them to be here as teachers and trainers and technicians. So one of the big reasons for having this fresh start and the idea of having the campus concept here is to create a new use for an old building back there. So we're asking the persons right here to help work in this process here to convert that to being an aquaponics center and also then the aquaculture and aquaponics. We already have here on the campus a permaculture type of a garden system. We've done work to reclaim the soil here properly so that it can support food purposes here. So with the idea of the PLEX campus, we want to be able to have also an attractive point here for mentoring and for science, technology, engineering, and math applications. We received wonderful word on the first day of the year that our southwest neighborhood has received the $50,000 grant to be used towards basically mentorship programs, specifically in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, we don't have too much new information on that. It was basically a holdover from the former administration. Now with the new administration, I'm sure there'll be some fine tuning, so we don't really have too much information on that. But what it boils down to is that is funding that could potentially be applied here. So it's like having hardware and software. Hardware being the building, software being the programs that can be put inside there. The other aspect about having this called the multiversity area is to use other buildings in this area here for other programs, whether it be tutoring or whether it be to teach skills or dressmaking or something, who knows. It's a lot of possibilities. So what PLEX has done is we've taken a look at our vacant lots here. We've found a concentration of vacant lots right here. This is where we start. This is where we create the programs that can get replicated and developed elsewhere in the city. If we could develop a program here for aquaculture, it could be replicated elsewhere with very simple hoop type greenhouse structure. So make it here, process it here, make it successful here, and then export it locally to all of our neighborhoods. So we're also at a stage here, that's basically part one of my presentation tonight. The second one is that we want to be able to have our students here have better schooling, to have our young person's in the neighborhood bust out to great distances there. They're tired when they get to school there, they don't feel as though they belong there, they have a difficult day perhaps, they ride home on the bus, you had a difficult day, you get back home, that's not a very happy life. Many of us can recall the days when you had your neighborhood schools and you could stay at home, or you could be in your neighborhood or use the school facilities afterwards. It was a happier time. Today we have young persons that need to have more productive use of their time. We have the obesity epidemic, we have the lack of social skills being developed, the lack of opportunities to the kids to get good tutoring and mentoring. So by having the PLEX campus here, we hope that maybe some of these other buildings that are here can be brought into service by our local universities. And just in the paper this week, RIT apparently is getting involved with a charter school. And we're asking basically the city of Rochester, which is a city school district, to take a look at number 19 school. Where we are right now is 200 yards away. You can see it on your map there. You can see where number 19 school is. Number 19 school is a school that had a great reputation, but it's been sliding back lately. We want it to be top-notch again. Bohan Vargas, the city school district superintendent, announced last November he wanted to get our colleges involved in our schools there. There hadn't been much planning, there hasn't been much preparation to the colleges, so it's kind of a shock to everybody. But it's a good idea. If you go to the University of Rochester, and I had done that in the 1970s to get some education courses there, the difficulty was there was no campus school there with youth where I could do teacher training without traveling great distance. By having a teacher training school on the campus, you then have the chance for your students then to be able to use that building. You have a chance to have your teacher supervisors get to that school building there, so you can really raise the quality. And I'm sure that our local colleges don't want to have a failure. I'm sure the local colleges, if they adopt a school, they're going to make sure that's going to make them look good also. So what our PLEX neighborhood is asking now is for the city of Rochester to take a longer-term look, and not something to start next year, maybe not even 2 years from now, but think about number 19 school here as being a neighborhood school within the PLEX campus to make things happen here, science, technology, engineering, and math, also a career path through the aquaponics there, then having other buildings here with the restorative justice and the programs done by the Gandhi Institute to make this a place of healing, to heal the neighborhood, but then by succeeding here, replicating the idea elsewhere. So the two basic concepts that I wanted to present today was the idea of the aquaponics using the building in the back there. It's a dynamic process. It's working with the group called ProsperRochester. And I'd just like to ask Eleanor, if you could maybe just bring us up to date as to where things stand on that. Has there been acquisition, or is it still being talked about?
The property in the back is definitely in flux. We do not know the status of the property. It has, the landlord has been working with a roofer who was looking to use it for storage and has other uses in mind for it. So right now, we're in a holding pattern. Dorothy and PLEX invited him to the table to make sure that his concerns, his interests in the building were heard. So right now, it's good to have Gandhi Institute at the table because they can help us with mediation and help us. We want this to be a win-win. I don't want anybody walking away from the table going, wow, I really got messed over. This is a microcosm. You know, what we're looking at right now is how does everyone walk away from the table feeling like, okay, I feel all right. I can let go of that and I can get that. I mean, this is what we as adults need to do here is what we're trying to tell the kids they need to do. So if we can do it up here, then we can maybe go down and ask the kids to do the same thing. So right now it's in flux. We don't know. We would love to have, if you're ready for me to take into my spiel, I will go right into it. Okay, so I'm at ProsperRochester. I've been, I was with SWAN, Southwest Area Neighborhood Association, for 17 and a half years. One of the takeaways I got from there, when Willie started SWAN, one of the big things he was really big at was, what's your passion, and supporting you in that passion. And I think that's why so many of the folks in the beginning were there and were there for so long, because they were doing what their heartbeat was about. And I gotta say, right up until leaving in February, I have been allowed to follow my passions there. And one of my passions was gardening. I like to garden. And so everyone around me must garden. So yeah, if you go over there, you'll see many gardens. We were responsible for the greenhouse that's out there. So what happens is young kids come in, they learn how to garden, how to grow things. Then they learn how to sell things. They go to the West Side Farmers Market, keep it in the community. They go to the West Side Farmers Market, learn to become salespeople, learn about keeping the books, learn about product. And for us, what was missing is the market ends in October, and what we wanted is to hold on to the kids throughout the year. So when I left in February, I took all my urban agriculture people with me, and we created ProsperRochester and opened, thank you to Barbara Hoffman, who made available 540 West Main to us, the Seed Folks store. The Seed Folks store is actually based on a book called Seed Folks. And I bring that up because that's not an aside, although I am called an octopus and you will hear like 3 million things going off in 5 million directions, but they all attach to one octopus. They're really connected. The Seed Folk book is a book that I believe all the 4th graders read, but it's also an ESOL book, adult basic education book, and it's about a whole community, all diverse backgrounds, ages, inner city community that comes together and transforms a really nasty vacant lot. And there's all kinds of grief issues in there. There's all different kinds of issues in there. So when our program director, Lisa Barker, who does our growing for us, when she worked with the youth doing the selling, she's a market freak. So like you will see her at all the Westside Farmer Markets. In the background, because the kids are, she actually has the kids doing the work. When she saw that book, she goes, play, we need to have a play. So she created a play out of it. So now if you've got a kid that doesn't want to work in the dirt, well, they might like to do some acting, or they might like to make the props. So one of the things we like to do is look holistically at a community, or look holistically at our children and say, well, how do you find out what their passion is so that they are doing the same thing you're doing, that they want to be there, that they're looking forward to coming to you. So the play the book is where we got the name Seed Folk for the store. The store is open Tuesday through Friday, 1:30 to 6 o'clock, on Saturdays from 2 to 4. Short hours, but they're all volunteer. So we're working, which I think is pretty good that we've got that many hours. So what we learned quickly is that selling fruits and vegetables, we're in a food desert, so if you're trying to sell fruits and vegetables to folks that don't have a high income, you don't want to be marking those up. And so we learned very quickly that we better start growing our own food, because going to the public market and trying to buy something, bringing it there, and then trying to sell it is difficult as far as, staying alive. Sustainability. So one of the first things we started looking at is this aquaculture, because In the City Off the Grid came into the picture and started talking to us about, when he says fish nutrients, he's talking about fish poop. So like it's like what a great system. What a great system and they have all the expertise. They know all the technical stuff. They can do the engineering piece. And so this location here became very, very attractive to us because, number one, its association to, it is closely, it's near the property of Gandhi, the Gandhi Institute. The Gandhi Institute, the nonviolence piece. Jimmy Wakefield I'm so glad to see you here, because they already have this facility. If you look at that picture, it already exists. Now we want their trained technicians, when they leave there, we want them coming to us. The other group that I'm connected to is the Neighborhood Consortium for Youth Justice, Youth and Family Justice. We found out it ain't going to be just youth, it's going to be youth and family. So that is working with disengaged youth. So part of disengagement is when people up here are making decisions for people down here. And so the Neighborhood Consortium for Youth and Family Justice kind of flips that, and it takes those workers who are on the ground floor with disengaged youth. And then they created safety nets. So we have a Southwest safety net. Now, Some of the other quadrants have 2. We only have 1, because we believe in no silos, you know, no turfs. We need to be working as one. And the Southwest Common Council, we've been really good at being able to do that, is working as one entity and trying to bring everyone into the fold. So, oh gosh, I did go way off. So yeah, because raining in.
Where are we now?
So for us, having as many folks at the table is important, because then you bring in those other pieces that are, like, I don't have the expertise in all the areas. I like being able to point to him. Ron Till back there has a really strong, he's worked with us, RIT, he's with Harvest Time Sanctuary, the church that's up on Jefferson and Plymouth. They've already got like a little hydroponics center in the basement. They're connected to School 19. This location here for us is ideal because School 19 has so many things going for it. Gandhi's already connected to it. Gandhi's connected to it in many ways, but most significantly for me is last year they started a freedom school there. Significant, very significant. This is a way that kids can learn over the summer, reduce that loss of learning piece that happens over the summer, and half the day is spent on community service. So where do they come? Out here. But meanwhile, what are they learning? Conflict resolution, peer mediation. And if I'm dealing with kids that are coming out of industry, I want to have that in my back pocket. I want to help continue the skills. They're doing a lot of skill building, mental health pieces over at industry now. That's correct, right? Yeah, they're very, very support oriented. Asking the question now, what is with you? What's going on with you? No, what happened? What happened for this to be occurring? And how do we help you move from here to a healthier place? And that's, industry has really morphed into being very supportive and trying to help their students. And this facility, it's not just about growing food, it's also carpentry, it's plumbing, it's nutrition. They've got a little diner that's connected to it. So it's very holistic, and that's what we're looking for. You might not be interested in this, but would you be interested in this? Would you be maybe interested in marketing? Would you be interested in engineering? You know, so by having all these partners, you expand your ability to be effective in the community. And you wouldn't want to walk into a community if the people in there don't know you. So it is crucial that PLEX agrees with this. It's crucial that PLEX says, yeah, that'll work. That's a good idea. Because they're the ones that live here. And so it's really important that anything that comes here needs to be run by the team that lives here and is planning for here. So one of my strong partners, consultant who Mike Moss, has been with us for, oh God, Mike, 12 years, you poor thing. So he's dragged me along and tried to take my tentacles and tie them in knots. But he helps me focus. It doesn't work, does it, Mike? No. So I'm going to let Mike give you a little bit of an update as far as the property. He's got some handouts for you, and then if there's questions.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Eleanor, you mentioned about safety nets.
Yes.
Yeah, could you define that in
Yes.
terms of what?
Okay, the Southwest Safety Net, or the safety nets that come out of the Neighborhood Consortium for Youth and Family Justice, are teams of people. Ours meets the second and the fourth Friday of every month over at Danforth at 1:30. And what that is a team of folks. Ours is facilitated by Carla Boyce from CCSI, Community... CCSI, Coordinated Care Services. And what happens is anybody that is interested in how to engage youth that are not responding to traditional methods of engagement, like this isn't working, no matter what I do, they're not connecting. And so we bring that case to this team and say, what else might work? And one of the things we're finding is there aren't a lot of resources out there. And so what happened is our team, Alonzo Henry, works with Reinvesting in Youth, And he was a coworker of mine at Swan, and we are still very closely connected to the safety net. And he had a big issue with, well, what are the alternatives? You know, what, and another piece that's very important for him is he would have the very troubled kids. He was assigned one youth in particular who had to have a mentor, in school security person with him all the time, wherever he went in the building. And so they would need to get him out of the building at times because he was like kind of losing it. And where would they bring him? To the greenhouse. And right away, leveling. You know, they'd come running out, is he okay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's out there planting seeds. You know, it just, the emotional change, the transformation that a setting like that creates is phenomenal. So what we did is go to that team and said, well, then let's talk about expanding this. And that's another reason why we took this whole idea to the Southwest Safety Net, because we saw OCFS is involved. The Office of Children and Family Services, they run School of Industry, and they're dealing with the kids that are disengaged. So why not have that team all working on, they know what the kids are asking for, or if they don't, this is now the venue to say, what is it you need? What's going to help? What's going to work? So, and the other thing, the last thing I do want to say about a greenhouse, what I learned from the greenhouse on McCree Way, that is a major leveling of the playing field. People love to grow. In neighborhoods, it is very interesting. You play in the dirt, you got some friends. You know, because people come walking by and all of a sudden you're safe because your nails are all nasty and you got water all over you and you're growing stuff. You're doing natural things, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you might be somewhat trustworthy. And so it's just very interesting to watch how, and then stop and think. You don't even get, some folks, some people know this. You two know this. You know this. There are many gardens around here. Backyard gardens. Nice backyard gardens. People that grow stuff and you don't know it because they ain't talking about it. But you you open the greenhouse and all of a sudden people are asking questions and all of a sudden you find out you're teaching me. Because I'm new at this stuff. I love to garden, but I'm new at it. And so all of a sudden now I got neighborhood people helping me and we can make an exchange. We got Alan here and the Bouteilles who are starting a plant exchange, a seed exchange. So who would know where you're going to get the person that's going to be doing what, that is going to just add a little bit to the foundation, add a little bit to what we end up building. So I'm sorry, Mike. Hit it.
Go for it.
I'm only slightly overwhelmed by the numbers. I did try to produce a one-page overview of where we are. And there are 15 there to go around, and Kid is Xeroxing 15 more, so anyone can have one. But the main point is number 6 in this set of large activities, which is that ProsperRochester has a target by March 1st of having a plan for our summer growing activities, with an expectation we will be beginning seeds, to have seedlings to begin to plant outside by early April, and we will run through until October. So in the next month and a half, there are some major things that we need to address and resolve. Just pass this. Thank you very much, Jeff. The major one indeed is whether we will be able to acquire the stone building behind us. If we are fortunate in doing that, then making it habitable, let alone making it functional, will be a matter of a year or a year and a half, we guess. In the interim, we have to make decisions about what kinds of facilities might support the activities that we think are critical to enable us to have a very active growing season this coming year. So I just share this information with you at this point so that you have a general sense of what we're about. As we proceed, as Eleanor indicated, we will always be more than welcoming of the interest that you may have coming at this from any variety of perspectives.
Are there any immediate questions? I think we're going to be asking questions about
Yeah.
both of these presentations.
Just a quick one. Have Dr. Joe or the Davidson about defining a roofer or another property? Having the city get involved?
Yeah, Joan, the Sector 4 CDC is our fiduciary. Joan was unable to make this meeting, but we are always in conversation with her about, and the other thing is Harvest Time Sanctuary, the Harvest Project. Dr. Bayer, I saw you, Dr. Bayer. That's right. Get in here. Actually, Dr. Bayer is on the ProsperRochester Board of Directors, and he's the one that kind of booted us into the direction of looking into aquaculture, because his practice with Dr. Mark Brown up on Jefferson Avenue and trillions of years there, he's not that old, but yeah, he's a trillion. So they have always been working with, they've got the garden across the street, they've done the food collaboratives right out of their office, and they have a strong, his church, Edgewood Free Methodist, has a very strong interest in having an entity, an urban agriculture entity in the Southwest, particularly up close to that area. So we're hoping that there's some way that we can connect on this, so that we're really pooling resources and making, the best bang for the buck, and working together to do that.
Eleanor, what is PR, complete a plan for PR farming?
ProsperRochester is
Thank
the
you.
PR.
Thank you.
And yeah, so it's our planning for urban farming.
Mhm.
In this upcoming year, although we're not going to have the warehouse ready, there is plans in place to use the youth employment program that starts this week, that will be going till June, to develop a soil-based site map for the 3.4 or three-quarter acre lots that are next to Gandhi here. We're also, assuming we can secure funding to get materials, we're going to try to do some outdoor aquaculture in reclaimed bulk containers that you can get from, we're trying to get them from Coca-Cola. And these big containers can be used just to have the fish be in a reservoir, and then you put a grow bed on top of it. You don't actually need a greenhouse for them, but ultimately we're trying to have a year-round, four-season production facility in this greenhouse back here, complete with solar power, water collection, so that way the community can kind of see what sustainable urban practices really look like. It's not just the fish; it's a whole system: food, water, energy. That way we can begin to be a more self-sufficient and healthy community, like John said, really healing the soil, because we are the soil.
So outdoor classrooms is a big thing. The greenhouse on McCree Way, outdoor classroom. What we'd like to do is create more outdoor classrooms. The youth that he's referring to, we just hired 9 youth. They'll be working in 3 tracks. One is learning how to operate a business at the store. One is helping to design and build an aquaculture center. And one is working with some of our small businesses. We have Small World Bakery, Hallelujah Tea, and they actually teach the kids how to make a product, take it from the beginning to the end. Last summer, we had 12 youth working through Rochester Works and Center for Youth Services, and they made their own pickles, and we sold them in the store. So we're trying to do more of that hands-on learning. I don't know if you remember the Healthy Home, that's Swan, U of R. We did that 700 West Main Street. You could actually walk through and see what lead poisoning looks like, and see what do you do for asthma triggers. It's the #1 reason kids miss school. It's the #1 reason parents miss work. So shouldn't we know what triggers it and what it looks like and what you can do to not have that happen? So this was a house you could actually kind of walk through. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this aquaculture and these sustainable practices, is so you can kind of like look at it and go, oh, that's what they're talking about. So we want more of that. Oh, that's what they're talking about.
Okay, if we could get into a general discussion. I'm sure some people held questions from when John was talking, and both of these presentations fit together nicely, so we could, if you have any questions or any suggestions or things that you see connections with, certainly we got into this because it seemed to have a good connection to schools and what will bring jobs to the community, which the students need and need to be able to see a way forward to having. I'm glad we've got a representative of the school board here, and any discussions you can bring forward would be good.
I have a suggestion to Eleanor. I don't know if you are aware, at the corner of Flint and Exchange Street, where Food Inc. used to be, there are above boxes where you can grow food. So that could be a possibility where you can check to see if, that lot there will be available for growing food, also within the PLEX area.
Who, Alan, you told me about
Is our
this.
volunteer at that?
Yeah.
They're 3-foot seeds, 6 feet.
What we have to be careful of is not getting spread out as far as our focus goes. There's only a few of us, like 3. And so we really have to marshal our resources for the biggest impact. And going to a setting where, for instance, that setting would be not unlike the McCree Way setting. We also have 100 grow boxes out there and a bunch of raised beds that we don't want to abandon, but because there's only 3 of us, we have to be very careful about where we direct all our energy. And so we're trying to direct it in a way that brings in people who would have a vested interest in making sure that a larger project be supported. And that's why OCFS, having already the facility that we would like to model so that youth coming out of there, I mean, that's the big issue, is like they come out of there and they come back into the community and nobody welcomes them. No one says, hey, glad you're here. It's mostly like, oh, here they come. And that's not what we want. What we want is those trained technicians to show us how to run our facility, Yes.
I think also, I've heard a lot of great ideas, but you have a community sometimes it's hostile to change. You have a lot of young black men walking around with nothing to do and don't feel as if they're getting represented or engaged with anything. You're only having a hostile environment. I work at the Y, so I get to talk to some of these guys, and I think it's easy to teach these children all these things, but when they go back to their community, sometimes they get acceptance, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get the community to almost betray them. They have all this knowledge and they're so excited, and they get home and no one's listening to them and no one's hearing them. I think too that we really need to make sure that there's a support system and everybody gets taught what they're taught, and that we also try to really go to the community, embrace the community, even the ones that look like they're going to be hostile, and try to talk to them. Sometimes there are people, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want you to touch them, but a hi and a hello, you never know if they'll come back a couple weeks later and they might respond to you, because making all these changes without the community support, is really hard. You have to deal with also the ones that want to cause the trouble, the ones that don't care, don't have a vested interest in this happening. You know?
That is an excellent, excellent point. On West Main Street, we have the Ford Line Gang. Out of that gang, group of young men, and out of that group is one of the kids responsible for the death of the 15-year-old on Adams. And so we're looking at it going, and then as a store owner, I got a whole complex across the street, Anthony Square, and the gates are locked because the gang has caused so much of a problem with the residents over there. To make it safer for the residents, they locked all the gates. Well, now no one can come across the street. So we as business owners got together. Hanif Abdul Wahid from Workforce Development and RAIN, Rochesterians Against Illegal Narcotics, Yaya Abdullah, Barbara, Dawn Nodu, the president of the Neighborhood Association, and several of us are having a meeting specifically about what you're talking about. We want to engage the kids. We want the kids to sit down with us and talk about. We don't want to get into suppression like call 911 if you see them sitting there. No. We want to figure out how do we get at the core, at the roots. The roots are bad. You know, how do we get at the roots here and figure out how to change this? So we're having a pre-meeting with the community specifically because of that. Because we don't want our community meeting with these kids with the wrong frame of mind. We want to set a community sentiment, a welcoming sentiment within the community. And so we're bringing skilled facilitators. Pathways to Peace is on board with us, Bev Jackson and Mike Brooks, who work in this neighborhood, and they're going to sit down with us on Saturday, if you're interested, Saturday, 10:30, at the cafe, the community center behind the 1872 cafe, 10:30 in the morning. And that is going to be to set the framework for where does the community's head need to be when they're approaching people that are in gangs, you know, and how do we approach them with the energy of we want to work together, you know. And no, not everyone's going to want to, but there are kids in there that are looking for alternatives, and we need to know how do we engage them. So that, again, to me, I know I get yelled at for being an octopus a lot, but to me, it's needed. You have to be like connected to all these little pieces because they're all a part of healing the whole, you know, to healing the roots. There's a lot of different things that are going to impact whether the whole project is successful. So I thank you for bringing that up. You're right.
I think it's just a respect thing. They want respect, we want respect, everybody wants respect. And then maybe you get something accomplished, they feel like they don't, and that's where the violence, the anger, all that comes from.
And not saying hello is a form of disrespect. Like walking by you and acting like you don't exist or turning your head away, it's a form of disrespect. Looking you in your eyes and saying, hey, how are you? I don't care who you are. You're on the street, you're a human being. Hey, how are you? A form of respect.
Or even just saying, ma'am, sir to them is something that they might not ever get at all. Because I just think there's so much anger and there's so much despair because of the opportunities that they don't have and the jobs that they cannot find.
Can you come on Saturday? Saturday, 10:30. We would love to have you there. Good. Behind the 1872 cafe in the community room, 431 West Main.
Can somebody describe the curriculum of the aquaponics program at Industry?
At Industry, it's headed up by, well, you do it.
No,
I don't.
you would.
Ed White is the guy, the head of the program. He basically just took a hobbyist interest in it about 1.5 years ago, and just started educating himself. So through that, he got networked with the New York State Aquaculture Association, which kind of provided a framework for him to understand it, and everything else is just project-based learning. Basically, you get the kids in there, get them starting seeds, maintaining the water system, but that's complemented by Larry Naylor, who does life sciences education there. And he really teaches them about the plant sciences, about how these biological systems are interdependent. And then after they're in the program for at least, I think after the first month, they basically get a batch of plants that's theirs, and it's their responsibility to grow those plants, and really making them feel like they're, you know, they have skin in the game, is the goal there. The actual curriculum outside of the classroom is headed up by just a traditional, you know, biological understanding of plants. But the hands-on thing is really what we're trying to emulate here. And it's really a shame that the kids in the community don't encounter that knowledge until they get to the last rung on the ladder out in industry, and that's really why we're trying to make this a priority for the community. That way, you know, they get these skills and have access to this kind of opportunity before you know, they go through the system, and really developing that knowledge and those skills within the population that lives here.
Josiah, did I hear Ed White correctly when he said that somebody from Cornell University came and visited and said it's the best setup in New York State?
Yeah, no, it's...
So that's a heck of an achievement for someone who took in a hobbyist interest 18 months ago.
Passion.
It's really talking to Ted Universal, who's the head of the New York State Aquaculture Association. He was saying that he hasn't seen anything like it, because Ed White really has learned from other people that have tried to do aquaculture. Traditionally, the problem is you're like, yeah, well, the plants are feeding off the fish poop. But what are the systems that allow that to be possible? And part of the problem is that when the fish poop builds up in the grow beds, it starts to rot. So Ed White had the foresight to introduce a third intermediary step between the grow beds and the fish tank, called the biofilter, that breaks down these solids into bioavailable nutrients. And he's really getting very, very superb fish growth as well as plant yields. We're actually headed back out there on January 24th to get some samples and take some more information, because you know, as in the city off the grid, we've been really developing an understanding of how to apply these technologies, while also developing an idea of like what a business model would look like that was completely run by a youth owned and operated entity. Because you know, they're coming out of industry with high tech, cutting edge skills. And they have nowhere here to use them. So you know, you might be able to, you know, be a farmer for your whole city, but there's no farm. So developing an understanding and a network that's capable of, you know, supporting a CSA and a farm that has many locations and many different diverse products throughout the city is really, that's the vision that I've been trying to hash out, because there's so many kids that you know, they're suffering from idle hands. They want to do stuff, but nobody's taking them seriously or trusting them to build, to create, and really providing opportunities for them to empower themselves is the main goal here, at least for me.
And is Larry Naylor, is he a teacher?
He's a teacher there, and I can give you his email if you're interested. He has a whole curriculum worked out.
The reason I'm asking some of these questions is because with the Youth Detention Center closing, my understanding is that some of our students will be at industry, and I don't know if you know if this is the case.
They're not going to be at industry. They're going to be across like the road, whatever, with the state and the county worked out some kind of agreement. They're going to take over some buildings over there, and that's where the detention center is going to be at.
Okay. So completely separated.
Yes.
That's unfortunate in terms of this kind of thing.
And one thing I want to say about the passion of Ed White is about getting people with passion for what they do. One of the things he found out was that the kids liked flower arrangements. They were very surprised, but some of these hard-ass kids like doing flower arrangements. So what did he do? He just changed the bed around to make more flowers in it. You know, imagine the guys on the corner selling flowers. I mean, here.
They grew flowers. They grew flowers, and then they got someone to teach them flower
arrangement, right?
And then they started selling the bouquets to staff down there, and people were paying big bucks for it. So the kids were delighted.
Yeah. So it's just reframing. I mean, these kids, it is below zero weather, and I go down the street and I see people dealing. I'm going, that's the kind of person I want in my business. You know, is this cold and you're out here working? You know, I mean, we just got to redirect, that's all.
That's right.
So that was actually something I was wondering. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about youth, but there wasn't much discussion about young adults or older adult, is there room in that project?
Intergenerational. We have always, from day one, since Mike started with us, and when I started with Swan, before I was working for Swan, so that's like 20 years ago, I started Computer Bridges. That was adults and youth coming together to learn how to do computers, because I frankly didn't want to play the kids' games, and this way the kids could show other kids how to do that. So my laziness brought together adults and youth, and we have done that right from the beginning. We just did the youth that we just brought in there. We asked them the question, do you work with adults? How much do you do that? Do you like working with adults? And so we're right from the start. Most of the youth are 14 and 15-year-olds. There's an 18-year-old who was with Grow Green at Swan when he was 12. He transitioned over to the Gandhi Institute. So it's about, absolutely, it's about igniting people's passions, and you don't know what age, what's going to do that, and who's going to do that. So without question, it's an intergenerational model, for sure. That's a good question.
I have 2 questions. The first is, Josiah, you mentioned that I assume right here is the 3/4 acre site. Who owns that?
It's my understanding that,
David Knoll.
yeah.
The landlord's in the back room,
Actually,
David Knoll.
he's in the hall.
Oh,
David,
he's in the hall.
shout.
So it's privately owned, it's not public?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we started gardening there. We actually grew quite a bit of food there last year. And that's, we'll partner with whoever.
Okay.
And the idea is it's public produce.
Yep.
And we've tested all the land, and there's some lead issues in some parts of the grounds and some not. So we're siting beds where we can, and we're on the hunt for people who want to give us money to keep, because we have to, buy topsoil and compost for the beds, to make some beds in the area where the lead's really bad. We planted hundreds of sunflowers last year to take lead out of the soil, and we've also got hundreds and hundreds of daffodils planted on the property too. So we're going to do a lot to keep amending the soil here.
And currently you're growing in raised beds?
Yeah.
Only?
Yes.
Part of the site development for this coming year is doing something similar to the Green Visions program that was very successful last year in Josiah, and using
the garden area overlaid.
bioremediation of the soil.
John currently, he did research. You want to say, like, you got the good news that actually in the front part of that property that's right along Seward Street, that there was never a building there. So that's completely good soil. And we actually have a pear tree growing back there that we ate delicious Asian pears off of, and there's mulberries, and you can really already forage back there if you know look for it.
So kind of a related question, not really related. How is this project going to work with Grow Green in Rochester, if it is?
Grow Green in
Or
Rochester? What do you?
did I say that wrong? The greenhouse on McCree Way.
On McCree Way, the greenhouse on McCree Way is owned by Swan, and they just got a new executive director. We've been in conversation, but he's way too new. He's got a whole lot of other projects on his plate, and because it's the middle of winter, that isn't high on his list right now. But we are in conversation and let him know that, ProsperRochester is without question prepared. The other folks that are prepared to work with the greenhouse, Patty Love, she was here, lots of food, and they're very organic, literally and not literally. But they work with community populations. 2 years ago, when I was at Swan, they did an urban agriculture program, a permaculture program, teaching people how to grow plants that like each other and will do well together. And one of those gentlemen he lives in the neighborhood next to Montgomery Neighborhood Center, and he is now in charge of the garden that's at Montgomery Neighborhood Center. So that's more of what we're trying to do, is get organic. This Hootie is from the neighborhood. He just dropped him off on Shelter Street. He lives on Lenox. And so he's someone that we could see taking over an area and becoming the manager. And that's what we're priming him for with the youth group that we have now.
And it's my understanding that Lisa Barker, the former youth program director at Swan, who now works for ProsperRochester, she met with the new director, and it's my understanding that they don't want to do any youth programming there without having her involved in some way. So there at least is a very good chance and potential there for a collaborative relationship with Swan again. This past year, I was helping to do hydroponic education with the kids that were out of the greenhouse, and we also did a lot of the raised beds there. So it's definitely a site that's within our networks that will hopefully be used this year.
And Norm Roberts, the new executive director of Swan, is he worked for City Rec, very much into prevention. Is how do we get activities for kids so they don't end up at industry, so that we're like diverting them and that we're engaging them ahead of time. So he's very much into that, and he's very positive about the whole urban agriculture program.
Eleanor, is the staff, the people who are working for, the Seed Folk store or ProsperRochester, I know that the kids get paid, but, the adults, it's all volunteer?
All right, so we did get a Farish grant, so we have 2 staff. Lisa, the after-school program coordinator, and she actually gave up some of her salary so that she could have an assistant. I am not paid. I'm paid this month because I'm getting the kitchen together. One of the other things we thought we would like to pursue is making salads. So there was some money in that grant for a kitchen coordinator. I took it all. So after this month, I have no money again.
Yeah, well, people have to live. That's what I'm saying.
You know what? A lot of this is by faith. A lot of this is, we're doing we know we're doing the right thing. We can see that in the kids that we work with.
Yeah.
The fact that 9 of them from the 12 have come back to us and say, yeah, this is what I want to do. We know we're doing the right thing. So we do believe, and I know that, my husband's not that crazy about that philosophy, but we do believe the right thing is going to happen, and the fact is, we started 9 kids and we got the staff to deal with them. I've got unbelievable volunteers. There's a gentleman that volunteers for me every day. We're not open every day, but he's there every day. And if you go there now, there's little hearts hanging there because he switched from the Christmas motif into now it's February, so we must do Valentine's Day, and there's hearts all over the place. I don't do any of this. It's, this is like all volunteer. It's awesome.
That is, yeah, thank you.
Going to that point, what, have you chosen what you would like to grow to kind of maximize the growing season, maximize profits so that there is enough money coming through to support people? There are other this kind of thing is getting done in other states that deal with our similar kind of climate. I hear they grow a lot of sprouts. It's something that can, it's very valuable. So is this stuff that you...
Yeah, as part of the upcoming youth programming, I'm going to be working in conjunction with the youth at there's a location on the east side of town called the Greenhouse Cafe. We're going to be doing microgreens, romaine lettuces. We're going to be starting a lot of kale. To be sold at Seed Folk store, and we're also going to be doing a small hydroponic and aquaponic system there to kind of see what we can start to learn with the kids. And then once the growing season gets up and running, we're hoping to use the McCree Way greenhouse to grow a lot of annuals, as well as all the raised beds that we have access to across the city. We've been looking through the seed catalogs to see what we have access to. We have a community partner, Fruition Seeds, that has offered to give us a significant discount on bioregion specific seed crops. So we've definitely been working that out. But again, the youth program just kind of started. We really want to have them be the leaders in what is going to be grown.
Okay.
And they also have an idea of that just came last week from one of the youth, one of the youth that worked there this past week. He's continued to volunteer there every Friday. They want to do Valentine's Day baskets. So they've been talking about how can they put together a fruit basket or something healthy and maybe with a plant in it, something that they can sell so that it's not just fruits and vegetables, because there's such a low profit margin on fruits and vegetables. What are the other things we can do? We sell for Small World Bakery. If you buy your stuff there, we get $1. So, you know, it's about also getting the community in there. One of the reasons we haven't pushed the advertising yet is it has been a nightmare. We are able to give out, to use EBT, but we don't have the machine, and you have to show that you sell $100 a month in order to do that. And to do that, you have to, the hoops are unbelievable, and we don't feel right advertising in a neighborhood that's gonna need EBT, and we can't do it. So we're gonna, once we have that, we'll be able to advertise more widely.
Actually, if nobody else has a point, I have another question. I'm sorry to be monopolizing things, but one thing that I feel that isn't in this plan, and maybe it's just because I haven't been here for the whole thing, is composting. We talked about, I think you talked about soil redevelopment, and I mean, there's just so much waste that Rochester, this industrial city, produces food-wise that I feel like we should just be jumping all over here, and it hasn't come up yet, and I just wondered what thoughts have been going on.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the overall idea of what we're going to be doing here this year. There's a compost heap back there. One of the main things we're going to be doing once the spring breaks is taking all that out, sorting out the compost, and then building a 6-bin system. That way we can really begin to modularize our composting here. We're also planning one of our field trips is going to be to community composting, the local group that works in conjunction with a biofuels company called Epiphragy, to kind of show the kids what is possible when it comes to waste management that isn't landfill based. So yeah, it's definitely part of it.
We started composting here a couple of years ago. It's mostly Small World Bakery did. It sort of looks like a super fun site at this stage of the game. So now we're doing sort of smaller, real composting, but it is.
There's a lot of good soil in there, though.
There is a lot of good soil, and there's also God only knows what else in there. So yeah. So composting, especially in a city neighborhood, you got to think, because you really, it's like a nice invitation for rats. So you got to think.
Well, you know, I just envision, and you get hooked up with, you know, what was Genesee Brewery, was now like North American Brewers, you know, hooking up with Wegmans, you have all this waste, and if you could figure out, you know, like go the vermiculture route, figure out how to put all of this, I mean, that is a huge commodity. I mean,
so are you going to be helping us?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Where's your contact? Come on.
What's your name? What's your name?
The whole compost.
What is your name?
You're going to be the compost guy. I can tell.
I live in Batavia. I'm kind of spoken for.
All right.
Excuses.
All right. Thank you, though. We take consultants.
If you talk more than 30 seconds at an Eleanor meeting,
Yeah, right.
Well, one idea for income or whatever, you could offer classes to adults. I mean, yeah, adults can always pay for classes.
This is true.
I'm just giving you a time. Okay. Okay. I haven't been in sight of the clock. Thank you.
I'll continue. So like I had an experience recently where I went to a place in North Carolina. It's called Turtle Island Preserve. People will pay like in the neighborhood of 100 to a little over 100 for a weekend of learning basic primitive living skills, gardening, blacksmithing, just like self-sufficient skill. Like apparently that place is now like in a book called, 100 Greatest vacations to learn 100 greatest I think I don't remember exactly. But people will pay for that, so
You just made me think of a great thing with that, because OCFS is saying the community needs to be out here, they need to be seeing what we're doing. We should come up with paid tours. You should come up with.
I don't have enough jobs.
Yeah, right, okay, we'll find someone. Where's that guy?
You go first. But I do think, yeah, I mean, you gotta, yeah, there will be like the leap of faith where we have to like get the thing running for.
Is that something you'd be interested in?
Well, I have enough on my hands right now.
Okay.
With the Little Flower community, we're up on Parcel Avenue. We have 3 houses. We're renovating one of them. We have a community garden there. We're hoping to set up a garden in our backyard. Yeah, we got a lot going on, but the reason I'm here is we're kind of interested in aquaculture, so we would be more than happy to help in exchange for the knowledge. So,
I mean, maybe we can get you set up with a system. You guys,
yeah, yeah. So
one of the greatest things about the technology is it's compartmentalized. You can have many systems or one system in many spaces. And kind of using the space creatively, like if you have a aquaculture facility in the back, it can serve as a hatchery for all these other small satellites. And really you can make a cottage industry around just food production. It's my understanding that Little Flower like really is trying to be self-sufficient in that way.
yeah, yeah.